Jeffrey Epstein, a name that for years remained hidden behind luxury, power, and influence. But when his story came to light, the entire world stopped to look. A man surrounded by millionaires, politicians, businessmen, and celebrities. A man who seemed to know everyone, and perhaps knew too many secrets. This is not just the story of a billionaire. It is a story about power, influence, manipulation, and mystery. And the deeper people investigated this case, the more questions appeared. How did someone manage to build such a powerful network for so many years? How did he get close to some of the most influential people on the planet? And why do so many people still believe there are hidden truths behind this story? Today, you're going to understand the rise of the connections that shocked the world, and why this case became one of the most searched stories in internet history. But pay close attention. The deeper you go into this story, the stranger it becomes. The story of Jeffrey Epstein begins far away from the mansions, private jets, and private islands that would later become world famous. He was born into a modest family. Nothing about his early life suggested that he would one day become an extremely wealthy man connected to global elites. But from an early age, Epstein demonstrated something that would completely change his life: social intelligence. He knew how to talk to people. He knew how to observe them. He knew how to build connections. And later, that would become one of the most powerful tools he possessed. During his youth, Epstein worked as a teacher. Yes, before becoming a figure surrounded by wealth, he actually taught classes at a prestigious school in New York. And it was in that environment that he began meeting influential people. Little by little, he entered increasingly wealthy and powerful social circles. Then came the financial world. Epstein started working for firms connected to the financial sector and quickly built an image of being intelligent, reserved, and highly strategic. What's curious is that even today, many people still question where exactly all his wealth came from. Because unlike other famous billionaires, there was no massive company clearly attached to his name. Even so, his fortune kept growing. And along with it, his connections grew as well. Over time, Jeffrey Epstein began frequenting places where very few people are able to enter. Private parties, exclusive meetings, events attended by businessmen, celebrities, and highly influential political figures. And here is something important to understand about this story. Power attracts power. The more influence someone appears to have, the more influential people are drawn toward them. And Epstein seemed to master that game perfectly. He built the image of a mysterious, wealthy, and well-connected man, and that made important people want to be around him. His mansion inn became known for hosting influential guests. His private island began attracting curiosity. His private jet started appearing in public discussions. And slowly, the name Jeffrey Epstein began circulating within extremely powerful circles. But while everything on the outside looked like luxury, intelligence, and success, behind the scenes, accusations were beginning to emerge. At first, few people paid attention. Some reports appeared here and there, rumors, comments, isolated accusations. But the problem began when the stories became more frequent and more similar to each other. Little by little, investigators began realizing that this might not be a coincidence. And then the image that would shock the entire world years later slowly began to form. But here is one of the strangest parts of this story. For a very long time, it seemed like nothing happened to him. Even as suspicions grew, Jeffrey Epstein remained surrounded by luxury and influence. He continued attending exclusive places. He continued interacting with extremely powerful people. And that made many begin to ask a much bigger question. How far can money and connections protect someone? Meanwhile, the internet slowly began paying attention to the case. Online forums discussed theories. People analyzed photos, relationships, and travel records. Some journalists started digging deeper into the story. And the more they investigated, the more questions emerged. Because Epstein appeared connected to all kinds of people: billionaire businessmen, politicians, academics, and celebrities. It was as if he had built an invisible network around the elites. And then came one of the elements that fueled worldwide fascination with this story even more: the infamous private island, an island that would become the target of theories, reports, and endless discussions across the internet. The very existence of that island created enormous public curiosity. Because there is something that naturally captures people's attention: secret places connected to powerful individuals. And in Epstein's case, the curiosity only kept growing. By this point, his name was appearing more and more in newspapers and investigations. Yet many people still felt something strange was happening. How could someone facing so many accusations remain so protected? How was he able to continue moving freely for so long? These questions sparked an enormous wave of discussions throughout the United States. And the bigger the case became, the more it stopped being only about Jeffrey Epstein. The story started involving power, influence, privilege, and the feeling that certain people exist above society's normal rules. That is what caused the case to explode emotionally across the internet, because people were not simply following an investigation. They were witnessing a story that seemed to expose the hidden workings of the elite. At that point, the case had already become a media phenomenon. Television programs discussed it. YouTube channels analyzed every detail. Investigative podcasts rapidly grew while covering the story, and millions of people became obsessed with searching for everything connected to Jeffrey Epstein. But then, new revelations emerged, and those revelations would push the case to an entirely different level. Because the more documents appeared, the more famous names began surfacing in connection to the story, and this is where everything starts becoming even bigger. Before we continue, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Deep Story Vault, and leave a comment below telling us which real story you want to see next. Because here we dive deep into the most mysterious, controversial, and unbelievable stories ever to happen in the real world. Now pay attention to this. The Jeffrey Epstein case began spiraling out of public control when investigations started revealing the true scale of his connections. He wasn't just a wealthy man. He was a man connected to globally recognized figures. Photos began circulating. Flight records started being analyzed. People began investigating who had been close to him throughout the years. And that caused the internet to explode even more. Because now, the case didn't involve just one name. It seemed to involve an entire network of power and influence. And the more people searched, the more they noticed something disturbing. Jeffrey Epstein appeared to have built an entire life based on access. Access to private environments, access to powerful people, access to information. And perhaps that is exactly what made this story so massive. Because deep down it touched a collective fear. The idea that invisible circles of power operate far away from the public eye. And the most incredible part? This was only the beginning. The deeper investigators went into the Jeffrey Epstein case, the more unsettling the story became. Because this was no longer just about one wealthy man living an extravagant lifestyle. It was becoming something much larger. A story involving influence, secrecy, money, and connections that stretched across some of the most powerful circles in the world. One of the biggest turning points came when people began analyzing flight logs connected to Epstein's private jet. Over the years, that aircraft had become almost legendary online. The media even gave it a nickname that spread rapidly across the internet. Suddenly, journalists, internet users, and investigators were examining records, dates, names, and destinations. Every detail mattered. Every connection sparked new discussions. And this is important to understand. Once the internet becomes emotionally invested in a story, the investigation no longer belongs only to authorities. Millions of people begin participating. Forums explode with theories. Videos gain millions of views. Social media turns into a non-stop stream of speculation, analysis, and debate. And the Epstein case became one of the biggest examples of that phenomenon in modern internet history. As more information surfaced publicly, another element kept drawing attention: the idea that Epstein had somehow managed to maintain relationships with influential people for years despite growing concerns surrounding him. This fueled public outrage. Many people started asking whether wealth and status created an entirely different set of rules for certain individuals. And the more those questions spread, the more emotionally charged the case became. Then came another major shift in public perception. More victims began speaking publicly about their experiences. And suddenly, the story felt even more real to millions of people watching around the world. Because behind all the headlines, theories, and investigations, there were real human lives involved. Real people describing manipulation, control, and psychological pressure. As interviews and testimonies became public, media coverage intensified. Major newspapers, television networks, documentaries, podcasts, and online creators all focused on the same question. How had this gone on for so long? That question became one of the central themes of the entire story. How could someone surrounded by accusations continue operating for years inside elite social circles? And this is where the case became more than just a criminal investigation. It became symbolic. To many people, Epstein represented something bigger: the fear that powerful systems protect powerful people. The internet became obsessed with finding patterns, People analyzed photographs of Epstein standing beside famous figures. Old interviews resurfaced. Archived footage spread rapidly online. Every small detail became part of a massive public puzzle that millions of people were trying to solve together. But perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of this entire story was the contrast between appearances and reality. On the surface, Jeffrey Epstein projected the image of sophistication, intelligence, and elite success: mansions, luxury properties, expensive gatherings, private aircraft, connections with academics, billionaires, and public figures. To outsiders, it looked like the lifestyle of a man who had completely mastered the world of wealth and influence. But beneath that image, investigators alleged something deeply disturbing was happening, and that contrast shocked people. Because society often assumes danger has a certain appearance, but the Epstein case challenged that idea completely. The story forced people to confront an uncomfortable reality. Influence and charisma can sometimes hide dark truths in plain sight. People are naturally drawn to hidden worlds, secret meetings, exclusive locations, powerful individuals operating behind closed doors. The Epstein story seemed to contain all of those elements at once. That is part of why the case spread so aggressively online. It felt less like a normal news story and more like something out of a psychological thriller. And then came 2019, the year the entire world suddenly focused on Jeffrey Epstein once again. He was arrested on federal charges and media attention exploded overnight. News stations covered the story constantly. Social media platforms flooded with discussions. Search engines saw massive spikes in people looking for information connected to the case. For many people, it felt like the story had finally reached its climax. After years of speculation, accusations, and investigations, it seemed the world was finally going to see what would happen next. But what happened afterward would push the story into an even darker and more mysterious direction. Because while Epstein was being held in custody, reports began emerging about unusual circumstances surrounding his detention. Discussions spread rapidly online. Questions multiplied. Public distrust intensified. And then came the moment that shocked the entire world. Jeffrey Epstein was found dead inside his jail cell. The official ruling stated suicide. But almost immediately, the internet exploded with theories, suspicions, and endless debate. Millions of people questioned what had happened. Social media became flooded with posts, videos, and speculation. Memes spread across the internet. Podcasts dedicated entire episodes to the mystery. News outlets discussed inconsistencies, failures, and unanswered questions. For many people, the timing felt unbelievable. A man connected to powerful circles across the globe suddenly dies while awaiting trial. And because the case already involved secrecy, influence, and distrust, the public reaction became enormous. This is one of the key reasons why the Epstein story became one of the most searched and discussed cases in modern history. It combined several things that naturally capture human attention at once: power, wealth, mystery, secrecy, influence, crime, psychology, and unanswered questions. And once a story contains unanswered questions, people rarely let it go. The internet continued investigating long after his death. Independent creators built entire channels discussing theories connected to the case. Journalists kept publishing reports. New documents continued surfacing. Court records were analyzed repeatedly. Every update reignited global interest. At this point, Jeffrey Epstein was no longer just a person in public memory. He had become a symbol of something much larger, a symbol of hidden influence, a symbol of elite privilege, a symbol of unanswered questions. And perhaps that is why this story continues fascinating people years later. Because deep down, many people feel that they still haven't seen the full picture. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Deep Story Vault, leave a like on this video, and comment below with your thoughts about this case. Do you think the world knows the complete truth about Jeffrey Epstein? Or do you believe there are still secrets hidden beneath the surface? Because in the next part, we're going even deeper into the public reaction, the internet theories, and why this case became one of the biggest cultural obsessions of the modern era. After Jeffrey Epstein's death, something unusual happened. Instead of the story fading away, it grew even bigger. In most cases, public attention slowly disappears over time. Headlines change. People move on. News stories take over. But the Epstein case followed a completely different path. The more time passed, the more the internet seemed unable to let it go. And there's a reason for that. Human beings are naturally uncomfortable with unanswered questions, especially when those questions involve power, secrecy, and people who appear untouchable. The moment the official reports about Epstein's death became public, millions of people immediately began analyzing every detail. News clips spread across social media. Interviews were dissected online. Internet forums exploded with theories. People debated timelines, security failures, missing information, and contradictions they believed they had found. Very quickly, the phrase "Epstein didn't kill himself" became one of the most viral phrases on the internet. It appeared everywhere: social media posts, memes, podcasts, television discussions, late-night shows, YouTube videos. It spread so aggressively that even people who had never followed the case before suddenly became aware of it. And this is what transformed the story into something much larger than a criminal investigation. It became a cultural phenomenon, because at its core, the case touched something that millions of people already felt deep inside: distrust toward systems of power. Many people believed the world they saw publicly was not the full reality happening behind closed doors, and the Epstein case seemed to reinforce that fear. The internet became obsessed with the idea that there were still hidden truths waiting to be uncovered. Entire online communities dedicated themselves to analyzing public documents, old interviews, flight records, photographs, timelines, and relationships connected to the case. Every new release of information immediately became global news. But something else also made this story incredibly powerful psychologically: the contrast between visibility and secrecy. Jeffrey Epstein was not hiding in darkness. He attended public events. He interacted with powerful people openly. He lived in luxury, surrounded by visibility. And yet many people felt that what was truly happening remained hidden beneath the surface for years. That contradiction fascinated the public because it challenged one of the most basic assumptions people have about danger: the belief that evil is always obvious. But reality is often far more complicated. Sometimes the most dangerous situations are hidden behind confidence, wealth, influence, and appearances of success. And that is one of the reasons this case became so psychologically gripping around the world. The Epstein story also exploded during a time when internet culture itself was changing. Social media had become more powerful than ever. Online investigations could spread globally within hours. Podcasts discussing mysteries and true stories were growing rapidly. Streaming documentaries were dominating platforms like Netflix. Millions of people were consuming long-form investigative content daily. And the Epstein case arrived at the exact moment when the internet was fully capable of turning a real-world investigation into a non-stop global obsession. Documentaries were released, interviews resurfaced. Journalists continued publishing new reports. Every few months, new discussions reignited public attention. And unlike many other cases, this story touched multiple worlds at once: politics, celebrity culture, wealth, crime, psychology, media influence, and conspiracy theories. That combination made the case almost impossible for the internet to ignore. But beneath all the theories and headlines, there was another reason why this story affected people so deeply. Fear, not fear of one man alone, but fear of what the story represented. The fear that influence can shield people from consequences. The fear that powerful systems may protect themselves. The fear that ordinary people may never fully know what happens behind elite circles, whether every theory is true or not. Those emotions became central to why the case exploded globally. And this is important to understand. Stories become legendary not only because of facts, but because of what they symbolize emotionally. The Titanic became more than a shipwreck. Chernobyl disaster became more than a nuclear accident. And Jeffrey Epstein became more than a wealthy financier. He became a symbol of hidden power and unanswered questions. Even years later, millions of people still search his name online. Videos continue gaining millions of views. Podcasts continue discussing theories. New audiences continue discovering the case for the first time. Because the story taps into something timeless and human: psychology, curiosity about what exists behind closed doors. And perhaps that's the biggest reason why the Epstein story refuses to disappear. People feel that there is still something unresolved about it, something incomplete, something hidden. Now, whether every theory online is accurate is another question entirely. The internet often mixes facts, speculation, emotion, and misinformation together. And over time, those lines can become blurred. That's why stories like this should always be approached carefully and critically. But regardless of where someone stands on the case, one thing is undeniable: Jeffrey Epstein became one of the most discussed and searched figures of the modern internet era. Not because people admired him, but because his story triggered something powerful inside public consciousness. A mix of fascination, distrust, curiosity, and fear. And maybe that's what makes certain stories impossible to forget. Not the mystery itself, but what the mystery reveals about us. Because deep down, people are always searching for the same thing, the truth. And sometimes, the search for truth becomes bigger than the story itself. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most controversial stories in modern history, make sure to subscribe to Deep Story Vault, leave a like, and comment below with the next real story you want to see here on the channel. Because out there, hidden beneath headlines and public narratives, there are still countless stories waiting to be uncovered. And the next one might be even stranger than this.